Today, we're going to be talking about the mean, median, and mode and calculating all three of these for all of the data sets. So, the mean is the average, and so to calculate the mean, we should add up all the values and divide by the number of values. The median is the middle number, so to find the median, we should order the values and find the middle number, the number where half the values in the data set are larger than it and half the values of the data set are smaller. And if there's two middle numbers, which there will be in data sets where we have an even number of values overall, we should find the two middle numbers and then take the average of just those two. Lastly, the mode is the most common number, and some data sets do not have a mode. So let's do it for this one. Let's find the mean, median, and mode of the following data set. So let's start with the mean. To find the mean, I need to add up all these numbers and then divide by the number of numbers. So I'm going to add up 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 7, and then divide that by 5 because there's 5 numbers here in our data set. So let's do that. 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 6 plus 7 is 28. So therefore, the mean is 28 divided by 5. Now, it's okay if this does not give us a whole number. If we do 28 divided by 5 in our calculator, we get 5.6, and that's perfectly acceptable. Oftentimes, the mean will not necessarily be a whole number. Even if all of the numbers that make up the mean, even if all the numbers in our data set are whole numbers, we are not necessarily going to get a whole number for our mean. Okay, next let's find the median. So to find the median, what we need to do is find the middle number. So to find out which index the middle number will have, what we need to do is we need to take the number of numbers, which is going to be 5 in this case. There's 5 numbers here, and then add 1 and then divide by 2. Now you might wonder, okay, but what if we have an even number of numbers? If we add 1 to it, we'll get something odd, and when we divide by 2, we'll get a decimal. Basically, if that's the case, that means that there are two middle numbers in that scenario, and they are the indexes that are closest to that decimal. Now, in this case, we won't have that problem. We'll go over that in the next example, but a little bit better. But in this example, we just have 5 plus 1 divided by 2, which is 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So therefore, the index is 3 for the median. So therefore, the median would be the third number. And we can check that this is correct by noticing that this must be the middle number because there's two numbers to the left of it and also two numbers to the right of it. So half the data set is to the right and half the data set is to the left. And so that's further proof that we have gotten it correct. And so the median itself, I want to be clear, is 6. The only thing that sometimes people have trouble with is they might say, oh, it's 3. Well, no, the index is 3, meaning it's the third number in this set. That number is not necessarily 3. And in fact, in this case, it isn't. It's 6 is a third number. Okay, the next one is the mode. So for the mode, that is just the most frequent number, so the number that occurs most often. And let's see, 4 occurs once, 5 occurs once, 6 occurs 2 times, and 7 occurs just once. So all numbers occur once except for 6, which occurs 2 times. Therefore, 6 is the mode. In this case, it happens to be the same as the median, but it won't always be. That's just a coincidence that in this case, median and mode happen to be the same. If all the numbers appeared exactly once, we could argue that there is no mode. There is no single number that appears more than once. And if there were a couple, though, that tied, like maybe if there was an extra 7 here, for example, then we could argue that perhaps 6 and 7 are both the modes. Mode is the only one of these that can have two potential values for the same data set, whereas mean and median, there is strictly only one value for the mean and one value for the median in each data set. All right, let's move on to a second data set. Find the mean, median, and mode of this data set. So let's start with the mean. So once again, in order to find the mean, I need to add all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. So 8 plus 3 plus 5 plus 2 plus 9 plus 22 plus 1 plus 8 and I'm going to divide that by the number of numbers, which there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers, so I'll be dividing that by 8. So now let's add up all the things in the numerator, and please feel free to use a calculator for this. It's very common, very standard for in any sort of statistical unit to be allowed a calculator. Very common. 8 plus 3 plus 5 plus 2 plus 9 plus 22 plus 1 plus 8. If I hit equals on that, I get 58, so 58 over 8. If I divide by 8, I get 7.25 on my calculator. So therefore, the mean is 7.25. So that's our first one. The next one is the median. So the median is our middle number. Now, something I want to note is that in order to find the median, we must order the data set from smallest to largest, or I suppose from largest to smallest would technically work too, but generally we will do it from smallest to largest, so that's what I'll be doing today. So the smallest is 1, the second smallest is 2, then 3, then 5, then 8, then 8, then 9, and then 22. Oh, whoa, 22 is pretty big. Okay. So, and I'm going to just check that that's still 8 numbers, just to make sure I didn't miss any, which it is, so that's good. And now I'm going to figure out the index of our median. So the index of our median is the number of numbers plus 1 divided by 2. So there's 8 numbers here, plus 1 divided by 2 would be 9 divided by 2, which is 4.5. So when we get a decimal like 4.5, that tells us that it's the 2 whole numbers that are nearest to that decimal that represent the middle terms. So in that case, that means that it's actually the index 4 and index 5. So the fourth number, which is this one here, this 5, and the fifth number, the fifth number, which is 8. And notice that there's 3 numbers above these 2 values and 3 below these 2 values, which further proves that we got it correct. So how do we find the median in the event that there's 2 middle numbers? Well, we take the average of just those 2. So not the whole data set, just those 2. So to do that, I'm going to do 5 plus 8 divided by 2, which is 13 divided by 2, which is 6.5. So a little bit below the mean there. And the reason it is a bit below is mostly because of 22, right? 22 is a pretty big number. It was really driving the mean up. Whereas notice that 22 really didn't matter for the median. It would have been treated the same way as we'd treat another 9 or or a 10 or something that was a lot closer to the other numbers, but that is still higher than the middle terms. All right, and then our last one is the mode. So which number appears most often? Well, 1 appears only once, 2 appears once, 3 appears once, 5 appears once, 8 appears twice, 9 appears once, and 22 appears once. Therefore, the mode, in this case, is 8, because it is the number that occurs the most often. It's the only number that occurs twice. Every other number only appeared 1 time. And so there we go. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those down in the comment section, and we'll see you for the next one.